Okay, so with this basic introduction, I like to go into each area and give you a feeling of what had to be done in each area. And the first area we want to talk about is the station. Undoubtedly, station is the most important decision. Selection of the station is the most important decision in building a high-speed rail system. And maybe that is the reason why it also is the first step. First step, you want to choose a good station location. Once that is decided, then you try to do a good design for the station. I like to use a sentence my restaurant business friend told me about the most important 3 factors affecting the success of a restaurant. What he told me is that these 3 factors are location, and locations. So, of course, a high-speed rail system is much more complicated in comparison to a restaurant. But the location of the station undoubtedly still will be on the top of the list, which affecting the success of a high-speed rail system. The good news is that there are many high-speed rail stations has been built, and we have accumulated a lot of knowledge, and we have learned. We have learned how to build, how to select the station location, and we have learned how to build and how to design and build high-speed rail stations. First of all, let's try to compare the 2 transportation mode, which one is the airplane and one is the high-speed rail, and try to see what kind of difference or what kind of process they each go through. And from there, maybe we can see how the station is important and how the station is the key element of this high-speed rail transportation. Okay, so if we take a look at air transportation, then what we will see is that the passengers which comes into the airport, they had to go through, they had to access to, they need to take the taxi or public transportation to arrive at the airport. They had to go through some interchange, maybe if there's require 2 modes of the transportation. Then they had to check into the ticket counter. They had to go through the security. They had to try to arrive at the boarding gate, and they had to try to board. And they have some kind of buckling up your seat belt and so on and so forth. And they had to wait for taxiing through the runway, and they had to wait for the takeoff. Okay, so these are the kind of process. And once the plane is in the air, okay, and arrive at the other end, then the airplane had to taxi to the gate, and then the passenger had to debark, and then they had to go through the reverse process of how they could arrive at the station. They had to go through the interchange and then wait for their transportation and finally arrive at their destination. So this is the whole process a passenger had to go through from point A to point B where they want to arrive. High-speed rail passengers also will be spending, also had to experience more or less similar process through this. However, the difference is that their time spent in getting to the station and get out of the station is usually much less in comparison to the airport, and consequently make this door-to-door time for a high-speed rail system can be much more efficient for some distance, for some travel distance in comparison to the airplane. Taking the access time to the airport usually would be much longer than comparison to access to a high-speed rail station which is located in the downtown or the city center. Okay, so that would be some kind of saving the travel time, and therefore the selection of the station location is very important because that's part of the process. Getting to the station or getting to the airport is part of the station. Take another example. Boarding an airplane, there's only one door, and it would usually take about 30 minutes at least to get on board of an airplane. For boarding a train, then it's all different. Each car of the train has at least one door. Okay, so boarding the high-speed rail train usually take only 2 minutes to 3 minutes. So there are a lot of time saving in this process. So although the high-speed train do not fly or do not run as fast as an airplane fly, but the door-to-door time of a high-speed rail system can be better, can be more efficient than the airplane. And that is the advantage of the high-speed rail. And therefore, in designing this station experience, in and out of station experience, you can make the high-speed rail system more efficient, make your client more efficient or time saving, or have a better experience in their journey. So that is the advantage of the high-speed rail, and that is the function, and that is the advantage a station can provide. Therefore, selection a station should be trying to reduce the time of the passengers have to spend in the station or out of the station. Try to reduce this time and also provide a happy journey or a more comfortable journey or more productive journey for them. So that would be the goal. That would be the goal of the selection of the station and design of the station. So with that in mind, we can try to go into some of the experience learned, and this experience are reflect in these principles, which I list out here in how you select a station. First of all, is on many people would ask how many stations should a high-speed rail system have, or how many stations should a city has. So the answer to this, of course, is depend on the size and the population of the city. One of the rule, of course, one station must be at the city center. So a station at the city center is a must. And then if there is enough population or the size of the city is large enough, you may consider another stations or another 2 stations or 3 stations. And this happens in many large cities which has high-speed rail service, such as Paris, such as Frankfurt, and such as Tokyo, such as Madrid. In all these major cities, they have more than one high-speed rail stations. For the other station, you can consider maybe as the airport, so the high-speed line will become a feeder line to an airport, and you don't have to build a another airport, or you can shorten the journey. You can try to reduce the short haul airplane by using the high-speed line as a feeder line. Okay, or maybe you can try to build another station as another commuter line center, so you can connect to more subway, or you can build another station at a highway junction, so you can try to catch the automobile rider. They can drive the automobile, park there, and start riding the high-speed train. So these are some of the principles you can try to do in building additional station and try to increase the ridership. Okay. Then let's look at some of the scheme in the planning. One thing which had to be avoided is try to avoid the dead ends. Sorry, this is a typo. It's avoid dead ends terminal. Dead end terminal should be avoided because high-speed rail is a network. The network, we should provide availability for the future extension of the network. So if it terminates at a station, and that will limit the expansion of the network in the future. So try to avoid dead end or the so-called cul-de-sac station. Try to avoid this type of a station. Always make it a through station. Then the relative location of the depot also is important in select a station. You don't want the depot, you don't want the train coming from the depot to interfere the mainline operation. So that should be tried to avoid, and so select of the depot is also important, trying to avoid interfere with the mainline operation. Then one of the major factor is how easy people can access to this station. And the best way is to integrate the public transportation line. So you can use the public transportation line as a feeder system to this to the high-speed rail system. In this integration of with public transportation, you also want to minimize the transfer and the interchange time. Try to select location so you can connect to as many subway stations, as many bus line, or as many intercity trains, and also parking facility also are important. In the station area, you should also provide sufficient facility for buying ticket to reduce the queuing time. Of course, nowadays a lot of the ticketing using the ticketless. People can buy their ticket on the mobile phone, and then they can just swipe through the machine and go through it. So totally eliminate the time needed to buy the ticket inside the station. Also, how to try to reduce the time between the station and the arrival, the platform and the arrival. So try to shorten the time so the passengers do not have to waste the time in walking through a long distance to get to the train. And that this sometimes is inevitable in taking an airplane. And so making the journey efficient, this is the way to do it. Security also should be trying to become security check also should try to be minimized. Try to use the monitoring system, active monitoring system instead of passive security control. Had to check through every passengers, and that is also a way of making the trip more efficient through the station. And in the modern days, stations also has been playing many roles. For instance, it can become a commercial center. It can become a commercial center. The neighborhood is also as important as the passengers. The station can be a commercial center for the neighborhood because you have such a big station, you have such a nice architecture design. Why not use it also for a commercial purpose? And so using it as a commercial purpose, try to generate the revenue. And those revenue maybe will be more substantial or quite substantial in comparison to your fare box income. Same thing, this station area can be used as a office building, can be the surrounding area can be used as a office building or the residential area, and this will also generate income or the property development opportunity while building a subway a high-speed rail station. So all this has something to do with the selection of the station, select a good station location to satisfy all this. Okay, so these are the basic principles which we, when you select a station, you have to think about it. I try to give you an example here. This is the kind of a modern day station. Besides you have a fare box income, you use it for rail rental purpose, you can use for real estate development. You can have a lot of advertising opportunity there, and you can provide a passenger service like the convenience store, like the shopping arcade, or restaurant, cafe, all this kind of passenger service. This is a report from the Hong Kong MTR report. Hong Kong MTR, although it's a subway station, it's a subway system, but it probably is the most successful in trying to integrate this station development into a railroad system. Look at their income from the fare box is only 28%, and another 72% of their income are from other property development or property investment or non-fare, like advertisement or this type of the income. So a station selection also should be looking into this kind of opportunity. JR, Japanese Railroad, also it has a very good experience of using the stations as a commercial area and generate a lot of the income from that. I had looked at the JR East report. They are generating something like a 32% of the income from managing their property, managing their stations. So management or the property development opportunity, or this value captured, we sometimes call this value captured. Value captured through this the development of this high-speed rail system can be substantially large. Okay, so here I also try to give you kind of method or or one of the methods which can be used to evaluate. And that is using a criteria, a set of the criteria, and try to evaluate for different alternatives, and which one give a better selection. You can try to use the weighting system, or you can try to do sensitivity study, and so on and so forth. You can make it very sophisticated in evaluation, but remember, your result is only as good as your data. And if your data is at the very beginning, very primitive, then probably doesn't worth the effort for a very sophisticated method of evaluation. Okay, so in evaluating a high-speed rail system, you can try to look at a high-speed rail station. You can try to estimate the traffic demand of different locations, the population surrounding each alternative, how easy it is to acquire the land, the rough cost estimate of building the station, the environmental impact, and is there any opportunity for development? And how easy to access it, how many interchange or transfer they are connected to, and then what are the operational requirements in such a place. So you can try to list out all these criteria and try to evaluate. And this is an example of what we used. So after you select the station, the next step is to select the route. And the way to do it is usually by selecting the station first, and you try to connect the station to station with different alternatives. And this is an example of the Taiwan High-Speed Rail project. For instance, in Taipei, there are 3 or 4 station sites. And then in Taoyuan area, this is next station, has 2 station sites, and then you try to connect all these with possible route selection alternatives, and after you connect them, then you try to evaluate the different alternative between these sections and come up with the best one. Okay, so come up with, and you can do this for every station, between every 2 stations, you consider all alternatives out. And finally, you can connect one. You can select a final alignment, and then through more iteration, more adjustment, and you can try to refine this alignment and then select the route. Okay, so that is the way to select the route. Again, you can do this by criteria, and you can list out all the criteria which you would like to use and consider all alternatives, put some weight on it, and then you can try to evaluate alternative 1, alternative 2, alternative 3, and see which one has the highest score, which one is the best. Again, the method of analysis or only as good as the data you have, and also the selection should not deviate your intuitive feeling, because if they are very different, then maybe there are something you overlook or underlook. So these 2 have to match, and so try to reiterate between the 2, and then try to get a better solution.